In the late 1850s, tensions simmered in colonial India. The East India Company's rule faced mounting dissent, leading to a watershed moment in Indian history. It began with Mangal Pandey, a sepoy who defied British authority. His act of rebellion ignited a spark that would engulf the entire subcontinent. From Kanpur to Lucknow, Indian rebels rose in defiance, challenging the might of the British Empire. Nana Sahib's broken promises and Rani Lakshmi Bai's valiant struggle symbolized the resistance of a proud nation. The British responded with force, employing loyal Indian regiments and reinforcements from Britain. The brutal crackdown marked a turning point in the history of British India. By early 1859, the rebellion was quashed and the British Crown assumed direct rule over India. But the impact of the mutiny was profound. The mutiny led to a policy of consultation with Indians as the British sought to address grievances and modernize the administration. Financial reforms and a reorganized Indian army reflected the changing landscape of colonial rule. Yet, amidst these changes, the traditional fabric of Indian society began to fray. The legacy of the mutiny, though complex and contested, remains etched in the annals of history as a watershed moment in the struggle for Indian independence. The Sepoy Mutiny of 1857, more than a rebellion, a testament to the resilience and aspirations of a nation. In the wake of the Indian Rebellion of 1857, winds of change swept across colonial India. The British government sought to reform its governance, leading to the enactment of the Indian Councils Act of 1861. Under this landmark legislation, India's Executive Council underwent a transformation. No longer a mere advisory body, it was reimagined as a cabinet, operating on the portfolio system. 6 ordinary members were appointed, each tasked with overseeing a specific department: home, revenue, military, law, finance, and public works. This marked a significant departure from the previous autocratic style of governance. As Sir Charles Wood, the Secretary of State for India, remarked, "The Act is a great experiment." Indeed, change was inevitable, and the old ways of autocratic rule were no longer sustainable. However, despite these reforms, the role of the Council remained limited to advice. Financial discussions were off-limits, highlighting the lingering influence of British control. The Indian Councils Act of 1861, a pivotal moment in India's colonial history. While it heralded a new era of governance, it also underscored the enduring complexities of colonial rule. In colonial India, justice was often a matter of privilege and prejudice. British subjects enjoyed certain legal immunities, while Indians faced discrimination in the courts. Enter the Ilbert Bill, a proposed measure in 1883 that aimed to level the playing field by allowing senior Indian magistrates to preside over cases involving British subjects. Drafted by Sir Courtenay Ilbert, the bill stirred controversy as it challenged the status quo of colonial rule. However, compromise diluted the bill's original intent. Despite opposition, it was enacted by the Indian Legislative Council on January 25, 1884. The Ilbert Bill symbolized a step towards justice and equality in colonial India. Yet, it also highlighted the entrenched biases and power dynamics of the time. Sir Courtenay Ilbert's legacy, a reminder of the complexities and contradictions of British rule in India. In the crucible of colonial India, a spark of change was ignited, a movement that would shape the destiny of a nation. Alan Octavian Hume, a visionary British civil servant, sought to bridge the gap between the rulers and the ruled. He envisioned a platform for civil and political dialogue among educated Indians. In May 1885, Hume secured the Viceroy's approval to create the Indian National Union, an organisation affiliated with the government aimed at voicing Indian public opinion. On 28 December 1885, history was made at the Gokuldas Tejpal Sanskrit College in Bombay. The Indian National Congress was born, with 72 delegates in attendance. Hume assumed office as the General Secretary, and Wamish Chunder Banerjee of Calcutta was elected President. Yet, not all welcomed the Congress with open arms. Muslim leaders like Sir Syed Ahmed Khan viewed it negatively, seeing it as predominantly Hindu-focused. Hindu leaders too harboured reservations, fearing it would support European cultural imposition. Meanwhile, the masses remained largely unaware of or indifferent to the Congress, perceiving it as an organisation for the wealthy, educated and elite. The Indian National Congress, a beacon of hope, yet mired in controversy. Its journey had begun, laying the foundation for India's struggle for freedom. In the annals of Indian history, the partition of Bengal stands as a watershed moment, a decision that reverberated through generations, shaping the course of the nation's struggle for independence. On July 19, 1905, Lord Curzon, the Viceroy of India, made a fateful announcement: the partition of the Bengal Presidency. It was a move aimed at administrative convenience, religious balance, and British interests. But the decision sparked outrage. Across Bengal, protests erupted as Bengali Hindu intelligentsia and political leaders voiced their opposition to the division of their beloved province. Out of this dissent emerged the Swadeshi movement, a clarion call for self-reliance and resistance to British rule. Indians boycotted British goods and embraced indigenous industries, showing their defiance against the partition. Eventually, the British relented. In 1911, they reversed the partition, reuniting Bengal but creating a new province of Bihar and Orissa. Yet, the impact of the partition lingered. The partition heightened political consciousness and fostered a sense of unity among Indians against British colonial rule. It laid the groundwork for the larger independence movement that would eventually lead to India's freedom in 1947. However, the reversal of the partition left many Muslims feeling marginalized. They felt their voice was unheard by the Indian National Congress, leading to the formation of the All India Muslim League, an organization that would come to represent the aspirations of Muslims across the subcontinent. In the tumultuous landscape of colonial India, a new voice emerged, a voice that sought to represent the aspirations of Muslims across the subcontinent. On December 30, 1906, at the All India Educational Conference, Nawab Salimullah Khan championed a resolution to form the All India Muslim League. His vision was seconded by eminent leaders like Hakim Ajmal Khan, Maulana Muhammad Ali, and Maulana Zafar Ali. Under the leadership of Sir Aga Khan as president and Syed Hassan Balgrami as secretary, the Muslim League was born. A central committee with 40 members was constituted, marking the beginning of a new era in Indian politics. The inaugural session of the All India Muslim League was held on December 29, 1907 in Karachi. Adamji Pir Bhai presided over the historic gathering, setting the stage for the League's mission and objectives. The Muslim League articulated its objectives with clarity and purpose. It aimed to foster loyalty towards the British government among Muslims, safeguard their political rights, and promote harmony among India's diverse communities. The All India Muslim League, a beacon of unity and representation in the struggle for political rights and dignity. Its founding laid the foundation for a new chapter in the quest for India's independence. In the crucible of colonial India, the call for greater Indian representation reverberated, echoing the aspirations of a nation yearning for a voice in its own destiny. Amidst mounting demands for reform, Lord Minto and John Morley assumed the mantle of leadership, tasked with balancing Indian aspirations with British interests. Their response came in the form of the Minto-Morley reforms, an attempt to address Indian grievances while maintaining British control. Introduced against the backdrop of the partition of Bengal, these reforms aimed to quell discontent and strengthen British rule. The reforms ushered in an era of increased Indian representation in legislative councils, both at the provincial and central levels. However, it also introduced the controversial concept of separate electorates for Muslims, a move that drew praise from some quarters and criticism from others. Yet, the franchise remained limited, confined primarily to the elite and propertied classes. While Muslims appreciated the reforms for granting them separate representation, Hindus felt sidelined, perceiving the reforms as favouring one community over another. Thus, the Minto-Morley reforms elicited mixed responses, reflecting the complex tapestry of colonial India. While hailed as a step towards greater representation, they also underscored the challenges of balancing competing interests in a diverse society. In the heart of colonial India, amidst the struggles against British oppression, a historic agreement was forged, a pact that would reshape the course of the freedom movement. In December 1916, leaders from the Indian National Congress and the All India Muslim League convened in Lucknow for a momentous joint session. Both parties recognised the need for greater cooperation to effectively challenge British injustices. The efforts of visionaries like Annie Besant and Bal Gangadhar Tilak played a crucial role in uniting disparate factions within the Congress, paving the way for a united front with the Muslim League. At the heart of the Lucknow Pact were the shared objectives of both parties: to combat British atrocities and to secure political reforms. The Congress advocated for Swaraj, increased representation of Indians in governance, and the repeal of repressive laws, while the Muslim League pressed for safeguards for Muslim political rights, representation, and separate electorates. Despite their differing demands, the Congress and the Muslim League found common ground. They agreed to respect each other's terms and unite in the struggle against British rule. The Lucknow Pact, a symbol of unity and solidarity in the face of adversity. Together, the Congress and the Muslim League stood shoulder to shoulder, ready to confront the British and fight for the rights and freedoms of all Indians. In the crucible of colonial India, the winds of change swept across the subcontinent, ushering in a new era of governance: the Montagu-Chelmsford Reforms. Under the leadership of Edwin Montagu, the colonial government embarked on a path of gradual self-governance, aiming to introduce democratic institutions in British India. The Montagu-Chelmsford Reforms introduced significant changes, including the establishment of the Imperial Legislative Council with two chambers, the Council of State and the Central Legislative Assembly. The provinces adopted a dual government system, or diarchy, dividing powers between reserved and transferred subjects. However, the reforms fell short of Indian nationalist expectations. Many Indians who had fought alongside the British in World War I anticipated greater concessions. Discontent simmered, leading to the resignation of key members of the Legislative Council, including Jinnah. The Amritsar massacre further fueled Indian nationalist sentiment, extinguishing any lingering hopes of reluctant cooperation. Indians, now openly protesting against British rule, demanded nothing short of complete independence. The Montagu-Chelmsford Reforms, a pivotal moment in India's journey towards self-governance. Yet, they also laid bare the growing chasm between colonial rulers and a people yearning for freedom. In the crucible of colonial India, the British government enacted a law that would ignite the flames of dissent and resistance: the Rowlatt Act. The Rowlatt Act granted sweeping powers to the police, allowing them to arrest individuals without cause. Its purpose? To quash the rising tide of nationalist fervour sweeping across the country. In response, Mahatma Gandhi galvanised a protest movement decrying the Act's draconian measures. His actions would tragically lead to the massacre of Amritsar in April 1919 and the subsequent non-cooperation movement. Once again, the Congress and the Muslim League joined forces, demanding the repeal of the oppressive legislation. They mobilised a nationwide campaign of non-cooperation and civil disobedience to protest its implementation. Faced with mounting dissent, the British colonial authorities responded with repression, arresting leaders, censoring the media, and banning public gatherings. But these actions only served to stoke the fires of resistance, fueling further resentment among the Indian population. The Rowlatt Act, a dark chapter in India's struggle for independence. Yet it also served as a catalyst, galvanising a nation to rise up against oppression and fight for its freedom. April 13, 1919, a day etched in the annals of history as a symbol of tragedy and injustice. In the heart of Amritsar, Punjab, the peaceful tranquility of Jallianwala Bagh was shattered by an act of brutality that would echo through the ages. Thousands had gathered, not in defiance, but in peaceful protest against the injustices of colonial rule. Their voices, united in solidarity, demanded justice and freedom. Yet their hopes were met with the cold indifference of martial law. British troops, acting on the orders of Brigadier General Reginald Dyer, cordoned off the garden, sealing the fate of those within its confines. And then, without warning, without mercy, the gunfire erupted. A hail of bullets raining down on unarmed civilians, men, women, and children alike, trapped in a nightmare of violence and terror. In the aftermath, the garden lay silent, its once vibrant spirit extinguished. The toll of lives lost, the countless injured, testaments to the unfathomable horror that unfolded on that fateful day. The Jallianwala Bagh massacre, a stain on the conscience of humanity. The British government faced condemnation from all quarters, both in India and abroad. And though Reginald Dyer may have resigned, his actions forever marred the pages of history, a tragic reminder of the price of tyranny. In the aftermath of World War I, a wave of discontent swept across the Muslim world, a movement born out of a desire to protect the sanctity of the Caliphate and uphold the sovereignty of the Ottoman Empire. Indian Muslims, stirred by a sense of solidarity and religious fervour, rallied under the banner of the Khilafat movement. Led by luminaries like Maulana Muhammad Ali and Maulana Shaukat Ali, they voiced their opposition to the partitioning of the Ottoman Empire. The Khilafat movement found a powerful ally in the Indian National Congress, united in their shared struggle against British colonial rule. Under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi, this alliance became a force to be reckoned with, a coalition of Hindus and Muslims standing shoulder to shoulder in the fight for freedom. Together, they launched a series of protests, boycotts, and demonstrations, challenging British colonial policies and demanding justice for the Muslim community. The non-cooperation movement of 1920 served as a rallying cry, igniting the flames of resistance across the subcontinent. Yet, despite their fervent efforts, the Khilafat movement ultimately fell short of its goal. The Treaty of Sèvres gave way to the Treaty of Lausanne, spelling the end of the Ottoman Caliphate. And though new powers emerged in the region, the struggle for justice and sovereignty continued, echoing through the corridors of history. In the wake of tragedy and injustice, a beacon of hope emerged, a movement that would ignite the flames of freedom across the subcontinent. The non-cooperation movement, spearheaded by the indomitable Mahatma Gandhi, marked a turning point in India's quest for independence. The seeds of dissent were sown in the blood-soaked soil of Jallianwala Bagh, where innocent lives were lost to the brutality of colonial rule. In its wake, Mahatma Gandhi issued a clarion call for non-violent resistance, a clarion call for Swaraj, for independence. From the bustling markets to the hallowed halls of education, Indians answered Gandhi's call with unwavering resolve. They boycotted British goods, institutions, and services, refusing to be shackled by the chains of colonial oppression. But it was not just a movement of defiance, it was a movement of dignity, of resilience, of non-violent resistance. Through peaceful protests and civil disobedience, Indians demonstrated the power of unity and solidarity in the face of tyranny. Yet, as the movement reached its zenith, tragedy struck in the fields of Chauri Chaura, a stark reminder of the fragility of peace in turbulent times. In the wake of violence, Mahatma Gandhi made the difficult decision to call off the non-cooperation movement, reaffirming his commitment to the path of non-violence. In the tumultuous landscape of colonial India, the stage was set for a clash of ideologies, a clash that would shape the course of history. The Simon Commission, appointed by the British Parliament in 1927, was tasked with charting the future of British India's constitutional structure. Led by Sir John Simon, a delegation of solely British officials embarked on a mission to review the Government of India Act of 1919 and propose further constitutional reforms. But from its inception, the Commission faced vehement opposition from Indian political leaders. Indian leaders, united in their demand for representation and autonomy, boycotted the Commission, denouncing it as illegitimate and unrepresentative of Indian interests. Their voices, silenced by the absence of Indian participation, reverberated across the nation. When the Commission's recommendations fell short of addressing the aspirations of Indian political leaders for full responsible government and dominion status, disillusionment turned to dissent. The failure to bridge the gap between colonial rule and Indian aspirations only served to fuel the flames of independence. The Simon Commission, a catalyst for change, a catalyst for unity. Its shortcomings laid bare the inherent flaws of colonial governance, galvanizing Indian aspirations for freedom and self-determination. And though the road ahead was fraught with challenges, the seeds of independence had been sown. In the halls of power, amidst the clamour of political discourse, a document of profound significance emerged, the Nehru Report of 1928. Crafted under the leadership of Motilal Nehru, it stood as a beacon of hope in India's struggle for independence. At its core, the Nehru Report championed the cause of self-governance, advocating for the establishment of a dominion within the British Commonwealth, a vision of sovereignty akin to that enjoyed by nations like Canada and Australia. It laid the foundation for a federal system, envisioning a central government alongside provincial administrations, each endowed with its own sphere of authority. And in a nod to inclusivity, it called for safeguards to protect the rights and interests of minority communities. Yet, amidst the optimism, voices of dissent arose. Muslim leaders, apprehensive of the report's provisions, voiced their concerns. The rejection of separate electorates and the allocation of residuary powers sparked controversy, revealing deep divisions within the political landscape. Though the Nehru Report did not immediately usher in constitutional reforms, its significance lay in its role as a catalyst for change, a blueprint for a future founded on principles of democracy, equality and justice. And as the wheels of history turned, its echoes reverberated through the corridors of power, shaping the destiny of a nation. In the corridors of power and amidst the clamour of political discourse, a visionary leader emerged, Muhammad Ali Jinnah. In 1929, he unveiled a set of demands that would shape the destiny of a community and a nation, the 14 points. These points, known as the League's demands, were a testament to Jinnah's unwavering commitment to safeguarding the interests of the Muslim community in India. From federalism to provincial autonomy, from representation to reservation of seats, each point was a pillar of empowerment and equality. The 14 points resonated deeply within Muslim communities, sparking a sense of unity and purpose. They heralded a new era of awareness and advocacy, empowering Muslims to assert their rights and aspirations on the political stage. Though the immediate impact may have been subtle, the legacy of the 14 points endures, a testament to the resilience and vision of a leader who dared to dream of a future where every voice is heard, every right is respected, and every community stands united in pursuit of justice and equality. In the face of tyranny and oppression, a silent revolution was born, a movement that would shake the foundations of British rule and ignite the flames of freedom. This was the era of civil disobedience. With unwavering resolve, Indians across the nation embraced the spirit of non-cooperation, refusing to bow to the dictates of their colonial masters. They boycotted British-manufactured goods, shunned government schools, and withheld taxes, a resolute stand against injustice and exploitation. Yet, it was the Salt Satyagraha that captured the world's imagination and defined the essence of civil disobedience. At the heart of it lay a simple act, breaking the salt monopoly imposed by the British. Led by Mahatma Gandhi, thousands marched in unity, from the banks of the Sabarmati to the shores of Dandi, reclaiming their right to produce salt. On March 12, 1930, history bore witness to an act of defiance that transcended borders and resonated across continents. Gandhi and his followers, armed with nothing but courage and conviction, defied the salt laws, drawing the world's attention to the injustices of British colonial rule. As the movement gained momentum, the colonial authorities responded with repression and arrests. Thousands were detained, including Gandhi himself, but the spirit of civil disobedience remained undaunted, a beacon of hope, lighting the path to a future where freedom and justice reign supreme. In the crucible of negotiation, amidst the echoes of struggle and sacrifice, history witnessed a momentous agreement, an accord that would shape the course of India's journey towards freedom. This was the Gandhi-Irwin Pact. For 8 meetings, spanning over 24 hours, Mahatma Gandhi and Lord Irwin deliberated, seeking common ground in a tumultuous era of colonial rule. Their dialogue, though arduous, bore fruit, an agreement that heralded a new chapter in India's quest for independence. A cornerstone of the pact was the liberation of over 90,000 political prisoners, a testament to the power of peaceful resistance and the triumph of justice over oppression. Under the terms of the agreement, the Indian National Congress agreed to discontinue the Salt March and participate in the Second Round Table Conference. In return, the colonial government conceded to key demands, including the withdrawal of ordinances, release of political prisoners, and removal of the salt tax, a victory for the spirit of non-violent protest. Yet, amidst the triumphs, there remained unresolved issues, a reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. The Gandhi-Irwin Pact stands as a testament to the power of dialogue and compromise in the pursuit of liberty, a beacon of hope illuminating the path to a future where justice and freedom prevail. In the hallowed halls of diplomacy, amidst the echoes of dissent and determination, the Round Table Conferences convened, a pivotal moment in India's quest for self-governance. The first Round Table Conference, convened by the British government in 1930, sought to address the pressing need for constitutional reforms in British India. Yet, the absence of the Indian National Congress cast a shadow over the proceedings, revealing the deep divisions that plagued the Indian political landscape. Undeterred by the initial setback, the Second Round Table Conference beckoned, a renewed opportunity for dialogue and compromise. Despite the Congress's reluctant participation, the spectre of disagreement loomed large, hindering progress on critical issues such as separate electorates. As the Third Round Table Conference dawned, hopes for consensus flickered amidst the corridors of power. Yet, despite earnest efforts and impassioned pleas, the chasm between Indian political factions remained unbridged, thwarting aspirations for meaningful reform. In the annals of history, the Round Table Conferences stand as a testament to the complexities of nation-building, a reminder that the path to progress is often fraught with challenges and contradictions. Though the conferences may have concluded without definitive solutions, they served as crucibles of dialogue, shaping the contours of India's future struggle for independence.